down here at this one. See where the arrow is? What segment is being affected? The ST segment. Okay? And it's a depression, isn't it? Remember, we normally say it's more than 3 millimeters, so looking at the number of boxes that it's going down there. So usually if this is extended, or if it's a depression of more than 3 millimeters, then what does that tell you that's going on?
Low potassium or ischemia.
Okay, low potassium or ischemia. Okay? In our case here, this would probably, hopefully, if we were doing the exercise part, where we're actually putting them on a treadmill, or we're using dobutamine, if we see this, this means we better stop. Okay? Because we have myocardial ischemia, and if we don't stop, we're going to probably go into myocardial infarction. Okay? So this is one of the signs that we're looking for. Going over here, okay, what's going on in this case? Okay, the ST segment is elevated. Also, what else do you see here? Where my finger is. Well, I'm actually, what I'm concerned with is this depressed area here, where it's a lot more prominent than you would normally expect. Well, this is the R wave up here. So the R is your peak, so that's okay. This is the Q wave. When you start seeing Q waves, that's a sign that you have myocardial injury. When you see an elevated ST segment, okay, now you have acute myocardial infarction. Okay? So Q waves and elevated ST segments are not usually something that you want to see. This is what I saw when my father was having his heart attack here at Loma Linda. This is what I saw. So, and then another one we have over here. What's going on with this one here, guys? I'm going to cover this up here because I don't want you to. You need to get used to looking at the patterns. Yeah.
Which one?
This one here. I'm sorry.
Inverted.
Okay, we have an inverted T wave. What does that mean? Actually, we've got T wave inversion. Okay, remember normally that should be an upward deflection.
Hyperkalemia?
Hyperkalemia? But remember, this is occurring at the end of repolarization, correct? So this should be a positive spike. But when it's negative, what does that mean? Remember those EKG books that you had? I want to take a little look at those. Actually, this chapter here is very good. It's a short, detailed explanation of EKG. Okay, this is an old infarct.
I thought those were like U waves.
Yeah.
U wave, a little U wave after the T.
Now, actually, because what's happening here is, okay, the electrical impulse is traveling along the heart muscle. It gets to the area where the scar tissue is. It has to go down underneath the scar tissue to continue. So that's what that basically means here. It's going around the area that's been damaged. And then here's this is the other one that you need to be aware of. This guy has two problems. Okay. We have the Q wave and we have the inverted T wave. So this guy has damage that's occurring now, and then he's got previous damage from a previous infarct. Okay. This is probably, who was the vice president? Was it Dick Cheney that just had a heart transplant?
Yeah. After 50. I think like 90.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're prominent and a celebrity, then, you know, even though you're 70 years old, what did he get, a 25-year-old heart?
I think they said he died from an anonymous donor.
And now he's gonna
Yeah.
live forever.
Probably somebody the CIA killed so that he would have. They probably found somebody
Blood
who
type and the
match and everything. Yeah, so the CIA took him out and yeah.
shot
Yeah.
Take a shot of me.
Well, what I'm trying to get through here on this is on the EKG, you need to be familiar with the different patterns that we're, you know. So you need to look at like PR intervals, you need to look at, say, inverted T waves, you need to look at Q, Q signs and things like that, elevated ST segments. I tried to list most of them in the handout that I gave you, but and like I said, in the textbook, I've got some good ones there. Some other things that you need to be aware of. Okay, this is called atrial pacing, and what that means is you'll see a little blip before you see the PQRS. Okay, so you see that little blip that's occurring here? Okay, those are, that's the pacemaker firing. You'll probably know that immediately because when you do start imaging, or you'll probably see that negative defect where the pacemaker is taking up space in the heart. But just be aware that if you see it before the P wave or right after the T wave, that it's a atrial pacemaker. And then here's a ventricular pacer here. Now some people have a defibrillator built into their pacemaker so that if it starts detecting irregular heartbeats, it will automatically shock them. You can also use them to jump start your car if you can't get a hold of AAA. I'm going to burn in hell, I know. Okay, so that's chapter 24. As I said, on the tests that I'll be giving you, I'll throw in some very common EKG tracings, just so that you can get an idea of what's happening. For example, this is one that I included in the handout. So basically, tachycardia, bradycardia, PVCs. The important ones that you should be aware of. Okay. So, and when they talk about heart blocks, this is the other thing that you'll hear that you should be aware of. So we were talking about the PR interval. So remember, if it's a long PR interval, we call it a first-degree heart block. Sometimes you'll see the P wave, go through, but you won't see a QRS complex. Okay, so that's what they call a second degree. So not every P wave is initiating a QRS complex. Okay, and then the third degree, which is obviously the worst, the P waves are going, but there's no QRS complex after it. So they basically, whenever the ventricle feels like beating, it'll go. But like I said, it kind of looks at that pattern and something that you should be aware of. I think let's close this iris down a little bit. Okay, so let me just. Why don't you guys take about a 10-minute stretch? Get some caffeine, or I'm sorry.